Hello, Opportunity Fund students, and welcome to the first webinar in our thematic series. This webinar will cover the topic of choosing a program of study in the United States. My name is Rachel Wilson, and I work with EducationUSA at the U.S. Embassy in Bogota. And again, because this is our first webinar, I'd like to wish you congratulations and really say the best of luck in this program. We're going to be accompanying you the whole way. So first of all, a couple things about this topic. Today we're going to focus almost exclusively on how to choose a graduate program of study. There are some things in common, although yes, this is going to be... Hello, welcome to our webinar about choosing... Hello, Opportunity Fund students. It's a pleasure to be with you again today. My name is Rachel Wilson from the U.S. Embassy, the Education USA team based at the U.S. Embassy. And Hello, Opportunity students. My name is Rachel Wilson from the Education USA team at the U.S. Embassy. And it's a pleasure to be with you today to talk about the topic of choosing a program of study in the United States. As you guys know, this will be your first thematic webinar in a series of 7 or 8 different webinars that talk about topics that are important in your process of applying to universities in the U.S. So it's a pleasure to have you with us again, and I would like to wish you again congratulations for all of your hard work and for being accepted into the program. A couple things about the topic before we get started. So today we will focus mostly on how to choose a graduate program of study for studies in master's or doctoral programs. There are some things that are similar with undergrad, but we will address undergrad through different sessions and through meetings. So keep that in mind as you listen to the webinar today. Also, I'd like to mention that we put this topic first in the series of webinars because it is very, very crucial to your process, to your application process and your whole Opportunity Fund development. That is because this serves as the basis for really everything you will do from now on. The programs will determine maybe what tests you have to take, if you have to take other exams besides the TOEFL English test, what kind of essays you have to write, what different requirements are. It's very important for that reason. Also, what kind of funding is available, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But it's also really important because it takes a lot of time and effort. I'd like to start this out by saying that the whole process of choosing programs does require time and does require energy on your part. And we are here to help you. Your advisors are here to support you in every step of the way. But it will require that you really take some time to invest in this process. So let's get started. When you're studying in the U.S., you have a lot of options to choose from. There are really more than 4,500 higher education institutions. This refers to, there are some community colleges that are 2 years, there are some 4-year institutions for undergraduate that don't have graduate programs, and then there are programs that have undergraduate, graduate, master's, doctoral, all types of programs. So in general, you have 4,500, higher education institutions. Of those, there are approximately 1,700 that have graduate programs. So that is more or less the pool that the graduate students will be working with. Out of those 1,700, you have to narrow it down to the programs or the schools that offer programs in your areas of study. And this varies depending on the person, obviously. For those of you who might be studying, business, might be studying programs like sociology, education, this number will probably be bigger because a lot more universities might offer programs in this topic. I know we have students who are studying trombone, who are studying fire protection engineering, areas that are much more specific, and those areas will probably have fewer programs to choose from simply by virtue of the fact that they are much more specific areas of study. So of all of the programs that exist in what you want to study, we recommend a preliminary list of 10 to 15 options. This means that you review the programs, you enter in the web pages, you see which professors are working in the programs, and we'll talk later in the presentation about how to do this. But out of this big group of programs, you find a preliminary list of 10 to 15 universities at which you would be happy. Universities and programs that offer really what you want to study and that offer a full academic program that meets your needs for your academic goals. Of those 10 to 15 options, you will probably be applying to between 5 and 8. Remember that through the Opportunity Fund program, you can apply to up to 8 schools. It's not necessary to apply to 8, but you can. You can also work with your advisors to see if there happens to be a need to apply to more for some reason, and then you can apply to those. We can look for fee waivers for applications and that kind of thing. So remember that the goal is to get to between 5 and 8 universities, depending on your specific case. Then in February, March, April, you'll get your letters of admission from, let's hope, 5 to 8 universities. And then of those letters of admission and your financial offers, you will come to your final decision. So as you can see, it's a long process. There are a lot of universities and a lot of really quality programs of study. And so the idea is that together we work through this process of figuring out which are the best options for you. So this is a little bit of the process that we'll take you through today, and then also you will be going through in the next few weeks individually and with your advisors. The first step before you even begin to start looking at institutions, I know some of you have started looking at institutions, and that's really, really good. We love when you come in with a background, with a context, with a base, and we will definitely be working with that. But what we want you to do first is take a step back. Because before we can look at what fits best with what you want to study and your priorities, we need to define what those priorities are. So we'll be looking at your academic priorities, your financial priorities, your personal preferences, and we will combine that to find the best options of universities for you. We call it the best fit. So once we know what your priorities are, we can start to research and explore those many 1,700 options that exist. And through this whole process, we'll need to be organizing your information. So we have some tools to help you to do that. So first of all, with academic priorities, this is really, really important at the graduate level because you need to go in really knowing what you want to study. In the United States, as opposed to in Colombia, on the undergraduate level, you can enter into university without declaring a specific major or career, and you can take different classes, and then by your 3rd or 4th semester, or sometimes even later, you can declare what you want to study, and then you can even change without a large penalty in terms of adding extra semesters or extra costs to your degree. But at the graduate level, it's a bit different. You need to come in with a specific academic focus. And so one of the things that really helps us at the master's and the doctoral level decide what we want to study, where we want to study, is really analyzing our academic criteria and our academic goals. So I know, we have someone who really wants to study, trombone performance. So if you're studying any kind of music, let's say, you don't want to look at the overall music program and the quality of that. You want to look at the specific professors who are working in your area. Maybe it's composition, maybe it's one specific instrument, maybe it's music teaching. But the quality of the program overall should not be as important as the specific professors with whom you will be working. The same goes for someone who might be studying, let's say, engineering. Or I put here Don Quixote. Maybe you're studying literature. and you want to be an expert in Don Quixote, in the Siglo de Oro de España. You want to study, you want to really focus in that area. And so you look at a university that has an amazing program in Latin American literature, but only has maybe one professor working in peninsular literature and Spanish literature, and who has a very small focus in Siglo de Oro. It doesn't matter how strong that program is ranked. It doesn't matter how much prestige it has. It's probably not the right fit for you as a student who wants to study Don Quixote, because you are not going to have the academic support that you need to reach your goals. If you want to specialize in petroleum engineering, and the program is amazing in civil engineering and industrial engineering, but not as strong in petroleum engineering, again, it's important to maybe look elsewhere. And what you really should do is dig deep within the websites. So for example, you need to look at the professors, what they study, the previous classes that they have taught. This is a really important way to kind of see if these professors will be a good academic support for you. Check out their profiles and keep in mind that you're always going to be looking for a future thesis advisor. The vast majority of you will need to write a master's thesis or a doctoral thesis, or do some sort of graduation project. You will have to work on a research project with an advisor, a tutor, a mentor that will be one of your professors. So it's really important to keep that in mind, even starting now, years before you will graduate, that you want to have potential thesis advisors. You know, things could change. Professors change universities, professors sometimes change departments, but in general, this is a good tactic for finding. So also look at your academic priorities in terms of your future goals. Do you hope to someday come back to Colombia and teach at a university? Do you hope to do research and work for a research group related to Ciencias? Do you hope to publish a lot of academic papers in journals and in publications? Do you want to be really involved in conferences and presentations? These things are really important because some universities have a very strong focus on teaching and on preparing future teachers, while other universities really focus on research and the teaching aspect is secondary. So that's going to, what you decide, if you want to become a professor, if you want to become a researcher, and you can sometimes do both. It's not mutually exclusive. It's not one or the other. But what you really need to do is say, you know, these are my goals, and this is how a potential university will help me to meet these goals. It's also good to think about what kind of program size you're most comfortable with. You can see in the picture below that some classes, and this is not as much on the graduate level, but it can happen, some universities offer huge classes. And some universities offer a much more personalized program simply by virtue of the number of students that are in the program. So be sure to look at the numbers of incoming students each year, and then the student to faculty or student to professor ratio. And this is very, very revealing in terms of what kind of personal attention you might receive. This is, you know, this might not be important for you. It might not matter. But it's important to think about whether or not it will matter. Also important to consider are the requirements. You know, what are the different exams and experience that are required, and how does that fit into your profile? You know, do you meet the requirements? Because that can be, if a program requires 2 years of research experience and you don't have 2 years, then you might want to contact the institution and see how strict that requirement is. Or if they have a minimum exam score on an English exam, let's say, and you don't quite meet that requirement, well, that's an important way to see if you might be competitive for admission in that institution. And lastly, it's important to really check out the academic infrastructure. For example, if you are a special type of engineer and you need a special type of lab to carry out your research, make sure the university has that lab and has those resources to help you. Maybe as a musician, you need a special type of studio for recording purposes, or for practice purposes, and or special instruments, and make sure that the university offers those. Maybe as a social scientist, you need access to special libraries, special publications. Just be sure to think about your needs as an academic and as a researcher and as a student, and make sure that the universities that you're looking at will offer that type of academic infrastructure. Excuse me. So now a very important part is also the financial aspect. Remember that as opportunity students, we are really looking for institutions that can offer up to full tuition, at least the potential of full tuition. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind the cost of tuition at the institutions where you're looking, and the living expenses maybe in the city where the university is located. But even more important than that, take into account the possibilities of scholarships. As we've told you guys before, scholarships are available. We have a lot of successful cases of opportunity students, and you'll be able to meet some of them virtually throughout the semester. This is possible. There is possible to get scholarships. So we'll talk later in the semester also about different types, but keep in mind that as you're starting your search, it's important to see which assistantships or fellowships are available from the specific program or department that you're interested in. So is it going to be full tuition? Is it going to cover all of your expenses and all of your tuition? Or is it going to be partial tuition? Sometimes assistantships come in the form of a commitment to work. So let's say I earn a teaching assistantship. I am committed to working a certain number of hours a week, and because of that, for my work, the program will cover my tuition, an exemption for tuition, exención de matrícula, and they will give me a small stipend, a living expense stipend that will help pay my cost of living. And how many hours that you work depends on how much they will pay your living and how much tuition they will cover. Also, please check out the percentage of students that are receiving assistance. Some universities have one amazing scholarship that covers everything and gives a lot of extra money, but just for one student. Some universities cover all their students on a lower level, on maybe a 50% tuition level, but then there are universities who cover all of their students and cover all the tuition. The key in those programs is getting the admission, because those programs tend to be more competitive. But I can't emphasize enough that the financial aspect is really, really important. It's important that you understand what the university offers and how that might translate into assistance for you if you receive admission. One more thing you can look at with this is that there are often unique opportunities for international students. Some universities offer a, let's say, Latin American student scholarship. That might not be full tuition, but it might cover $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 of your tuition. You might work a couple hours in the international office per week, or sometimes not. Sometimes it doesn't come with any commitment of work. So this will be really important as you determine which universities might be possible for you to apply. We also really want you to take into account your personal preferences, because the academic, let's be honest, the academic priorities are the most important, along with the financial priorities. These things should determine your decision. But please also take into account your personal preferences, because you're going to be living in this place for 2, 3, 4, even 5 years in the case of some PhD programs. So keep this in mind, that we want you to be happy. We want you to really be happy and enjoy your time. And so you might want to take into account climate. Maybe you don't need a place that's as warm as Cali, but maybe you don't want to go to the cold, snowy place like in the picture below. Or maybe you do want a cold, snowy place. Or maybe it doesn't matter to you. And if it doesn't matter to you, that's absolutely fine. Also take into account whether you want an urban versus a rural environment or something in between. In the US, you will find absolutely fantastic universities in large metropolitan cities and also in tiny, tiny pueblos, what we call college towns. And sometimes the university itself might have 20 or 30,000 people, and it actually has more people than the population of the town. And this happens, and it doesn't mean that the university is not good. You will have outstanding universities in very, very small towns. You can also take into account, in terms of personal preference, the cost of living on a long term. We're not just simply talking, what it might cost the first year, but over the course of your program, how much more might you have to invest and might you have to save in order to study there. And also things that you might not think are as important now, but really may be important as you make your decision and as you move to the U.S. What's the life beyond the classroom like? We want you to study. You're going to study, but please get out of the library at some times. We don't want you 24 hours a day in the library. So what kind of extracurricular activities might be offered? Clubs or sports, art, cooking classes. What kind of culture is on campus? Is it a liberal culture? Is it more conservative? What kind of cultural activities are offered? Are there plays? Are there art exhibitions? These kind of things can really affect your quality of life. Also, what kind of housing options are available? Are they, can you live on campus? Is there graduate housing for living on campus? If you happen to be going with a husband or wife or children, are there options for you to live with your family? Also, how many international students are there? What percentage of international students does the campus have? Will you have other Latin Americans? Will you be with a lot of other graduate students who are from other countries? Are they mainly students from the US? Again, these things should not determine your decision, but they may be important to you, and they also may not be. And you may say, it doesn't matter at all how many international students there are, and that's perfectly fine. These are simply things that you might take into account during your process. So now, you have taken some time and you've thought about, these are things that are important to me. These are my priorities for the academic, and these are my financial priorities. This is what I'm looking for. So now, how do I find the schools that fit these priorities? Well, first of all, base your search on what you decide. Don't let your parents or even your advisor say, this is what you should do. You should take into account the opinions of your advisor, but you don't need to say, if something is important to you, please emphasize that. So where do you start? Well, one thing that we always recommend is to start looking at the publications and academic journals in your area. Remember, guys, that you guys are the experts in what you want to study. We as advisors are here to guide you in the process, but you are the expert engineers and sociologists and musicians, and you know what you're looking for. All of you who are studying graduate programs have finished an undergraduate study, so you've done some research. You've read a lot of publications. So go back and try to find some of those publications that spoke to you, that you really said, wow, this is the theory I want to study, or this professor really has it clear. This author is amazing. Go back and find those publications, or find some that you're reading now in academic journals or articles, and look for those professors, and then simply Google those professors, find out where they are teaching, what they're researching now. It might be possible for you to work with them. It might be possible. Maybe one is at University of Texas, and you can apply to University of Texas. It's possible that some of you are, some of the people who you have referenced in the past in academic papers, or who you have read in classes here in Columbia, maybe you have the chance to actually work with them as their student. You never know. So start with the familiar material. Go back and read those articles and look at those journals. We also have a couple of good search engines. One is petersons.com and one is gradschool.com. So with petersons.com, For example, what you're going to do is you're going to enter into the website. This is what it'll look like. And you'll select the area that applies to you. In this case, for most of you, it will be grad school bound. And you will get a page that looks like this. So what you can do is you can pick your level. You'll either pick master's or doctorate. And then you will pick, basically, in the previous page, you'll also pick what you want to study, the area. And so then it will come up with a list of institutions. So in this specific case, it looks like we've chose agrobusiness, agricultural economics, these types of fields. It looks like we have chose a master's, possibly. And we have 80 programs. We have a list of 80 graduate schools in the area of agricultural economics. So then what you will need to do is enter into these links and check out in each of these websites, each of these pages, and see if it matches with what you want to do. This is why it's important to have already defined your priorities. So if you say, I want a program that offers X, Y, Z, then you can really quickly determine whether or not this program is going to fit those criteria. I'm going to go back really quickly to this slide, and just to finish up, we're almost done. Count on your Education USA advisor for their expertise, for their guidance. We care about you guys and we care about your success. And so please, please work with us, trust us. Again, we want this to be your process, but we want to help guide you in this process. So come to us with questions. Come to our offices. Bring your materials. We also have materials that are physical books, actual books. You can come in. We can go through the books together. Finally, number 4, and I will now go back to slide. An important tool to organize your information. So I'm going to send you guys via email a spreadsheet, and it's not rocket science. It's not anything magic, but it's very helpful in the process. So you guys are going to also be responsible for creating one of these spreadsheets based on your priorities. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a list of, you can start with 10, you can start with 15 universities, or you can see how many are interesting to you. But you're going to want to put columns such as the name of the university, what's the name of the program of study, what's the deadline for application, if there is a different deadline for fellowships or assistantships. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. Maybe a minimum TOEFL score. Does the university require the GRE? And then at the end here, what city and state it's located in. But also you're going to want to put your priorities, such as, you can have a column for professors that you want to work with. If you have had previous contact with the university, I know that some of you have been able to meet previous representatives from universities, either here in Columbia or in other places. You might have those contacts, and it's good to note that in this column. Why? Why you say, I'm looking at this university, this is my favorite, I'm not going to forget this. And you may not forget it. But once you start looking at that list of 80 universities that are agricultural economics, and you get to number 54, and you say, but I don't remember what University 21 was, and did it offer this or did it offer that, or am I thinking of a different university? When there are so many different options and so many different good options that are interesting, it really is easy to get confused and to mix up information. So if this table doesn't work for you, if it's not your kind of mental way of organizing, that's fine. But we want you to find some way of organizing the information that works for you. And a table such as this can be a straightforward and pretty simple way of organizing all your information. So I'm going to send you this table, and again, please make this your document. Change columns, add columns, delete columns. We want this to be the things that are your priorities. But remember that for all of you, you should have your academic priorities, which are kind of your fit with your academic goals. And you should also have the financial topic, the idea of finding the option of full tuition at all the universities as priorities for your search. Remember also that it's not always easy. You don't always fall in love with the first university that you find, but it's possible. We believe in all of you. This is why we chose you, because you are talented, you are capable, and we will find working together, we will find the best fit university for you. It's we had students this year, we were just working with them this past week, who left for again, we mentioned them in the introduction a bit, but they went to do agricultural economics in Illinois, University of Illinois, left for SUNY Buffalo, State University of New York at Buffalo, to do a PhD in Spanish literature, and a student who went to do an LLM, a Master's in Law and Human Rights, at Penn State University. And it was really rewarding hearing their comments about their institutions. Each of them are in love with where they want to study, and so it's great to see that they were able, through this whole process, to find the best fit university and to get very generous financial offers from the schools. So, ánimo. Les mando mucho ánimo, mucha buena energía. It's a long search, and sometimes it takes, sometimes depending on the area, it takes longer than with other areas. But please work hard on this over the next 2 weeks. When you meet with your advisor, have some questions, bring ideas. It's not something that you can do in 1 hour while watching a movie. You really need to kind of take some time, set some time apart, and focus. So with that, I will close. And again, any questions that you have, I am available. Your advisor is available. Post them in our Facebook group, and maybe other students can also help you to answer them. That's the idea, that we all are supporting each other in this process, and we're all learning. I assure you that the programs that you find, some of them will be new to us as advisors. So that's part of the beauty of this process, is that we're always learning. So I wish you guys luck, and I send you buena energía, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.